Hi, here's video 1 of 2 of helping to move people in your virtual wellness interactions towards getting the testing, getting into the products, following the protocols that you want to provide. You know, my early years of chiropractic were spent always figuring out how do you get somebody to convert, go from day 1 to day 2, where you can do that first part of the consultation, then come back with their spouse to go over the x-rays and the care plan. So I was getting better and better at it, but there was this one woman that I ran into a brick wall. Her husband kept saying, why would I need to come there? I have a job. Doesn't he realize that I've got work to do? I own my own company. She was really resistant to coming back. And so it was a big struggle. And she was in a lot of pain. So finally we get them back after a couple weeks. We stayed on it, which was kind of unusual that my staff would even stay on somebody like that for a few weeks. We get them back and they both start care. He gets it now, he begins care. But after just a few visits, I noticed that her low back pain seemed unusual, and she had shared with me in her history that she once had cancer. So I encouraged her to go to her doctor and see, is there something weird going on, because it just didn't make sense how much pain she was in. Turns out that they had released her saying that her metastatic breast cancer had gone into remission, but it really never had. So now it had just been sort of freely over a couple of years, had been freely circulating throughout the system, and they said, we're not even going to do anything, we're going to give you about 6 weeks to live. So she came back, and actually, great story, long story short, she starts care. We put her into a nutritional protocol, a supplement protocol, aggressive chiropractic on a daily basis. She comes out of it and survives. Great story. But what I want to share is the conversion process that I learned. So again, we struggled to get them started, but when she went to the oncologist, her and her husband obviously followed suit. The oncologist gave her a time, wasn't a convenient time. It was downtown Orlando, which is a tough place to get to from Kissimmee, Florida, where I was living at, where the practice was back in those days. But she made it there right at lunchtime. So did the husband. They came back the very next day to find out what the doctor had discovered on the exam. Came back the very next day, both of them for all 3 appointments to discuss what needed to be done. And so it occurred to me that if you take subluxation seriously, you and your spouse and maybe your aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, and both parents, they'll come in at 3 in the morning if they're taking it seriously. And so I learned very quickly from that one interaction that I'm not doing a good enough job. But I also learned, and I want to share this with you now, and hopefully it's a revelation for you like it was for me. In the end, who's the one who was actually able to do something for this woman? The doctor sent her home to die, but because of my care, she lived. In fact, we used to tour, she and I, and do talks to women on preventing or overcoming breast cancer. It became a great story. So in the end, the most important visit was the visit to me, not the oncologist. I can share the same type of story with going to a cardiologist. I actually had to go to a cardiologist after I had had a life insurance exam, and they said, hey, we need you to look deeper into your heart issue. So I went to the cardiologist, they did the exam, and they said, okay, we'll call you in a few days to let you know what we found. And I was like, no way, I want to know right now. The doctor had gone home. I managed to get the doctor's cell phone number, hunted the doctor down at home, and said, you need to tell me right now what's going on. So once again, if you take the problem seriously, and thank God my problem wasn't serious, but if you take the problem seriously, you come back. You want to know right now, and whether it was this woman and her cancer or me and my cardiac potential issue, money was no object. It's whatever it takes to get the job done to get me well. So the whole point of that is that as you go to do any sort of well-aligned consultation, if you have not taken it seriously yourself and the patient isn't taking it seriously, you'll get, well, I don't know, do I really need to do that test? Wouldn't my insurance cover it if I just try to find a doctor willing to even offer the test? Why would I take your supplements? I mean, isn't Walgreens or Walmart or somebody like that, Amazon, isn't that cheaper, and isn't it the same thing? You'll get these sort of lame excuses or people putting it off. Well, you'd get the same thing with chiropractic. If you had move down the value of the x-ray to the level you've moved down the value of getting your IL-6 and IL-1 beta tested or your food sensitivities tested, people would hardly ever get an x-ray. If you sort of devalued or presented it as just a modest opinion or a suggestion that they take these supplements to do this test, well, that wouldn't work with chiropractic either. They'd never follow your care. They'd never pay you money or go outside the insurance. So it's up to us to take this seriously. The bottom line, for example, as we'll get into in the next video, what we're doing right now to test immunity makes all the difference between life and death for people. That's why you need to get the test. It's a matter of life and death, not a suggestion. The products we're offering, this is going to make the difference as to whether or not you're on the survivor side or the non-survivor side when you look at the research. So if you're approaching this recognizing you're more valuable than the oncologist, you're more valuable than the infectious disease control doctor, you're more valuable than the cardiologist, because what you do can actually do something about it to prevent it or actually help them heal and get well if they've encountered the disease already. When you get that, you'll approach this entire program with Well Aligned in a way that's as strong as your chiropractic, and you'll get the same or maybe even better results.